Hello everyone, today we're going to be covering the glute hip thrust. They're all the rage nowadays, everybody wants to do a glute hip thrust. So we're actually going to cover the principles that you should do when you do the hip thrust so you don't feel any lower back pain. And it doesn't matter what variation you do, the CAS, hip thrust, the glute bridge, whatever it is, single leg, whatever it is, you should be able to still feel it in your glutes and not feel it in your back. So this is so you don't feel any pain in your lower back and it just feels right. Like you always feel the activation in your glutes, okay? So the first thing that we're gonna start off with is box height. This is something a lot of people don't talk about. Depending on your anatomy, your height is going to vary with whatever thing you do. So for example, here we have a 30-inch, those are very common in gyms. A lot of people just use them to sit on them. Here we have one that goes down to 12 inches. And then benches tend to be around 18 inches. And you said that for you, you're 5'6", longer legs.
Long legs.
So you feel better on an 16, 18 inch box,
yep.
Right? Like 12 inches is too low.
12 inches is too low and the typical, like that one is too tall.
Yeah. Okay.
Work.
So finding the box height that feels right for you would probably be the first thing that you want to focus on. But I would say that the biggest thing that will tell you if it is a good height is as long as, since you're 16 really, you want it so that your shoulder blade and your butt can touch the box. Like your shoulder blade is touching the edge of the box and your butt can touch the floor. Like that's usually a good starting point for most people. But if you're using a machine, you don't have to worry about that because that's usually taken care of from the machine, or just making sure that you're following the same principles. So actually, could you just stand up and face the wall this way? Yeah, this way. So when you're setting up the edge of the box with this, you want to make it so that your shoulder blade, the box is right under your shoulder blade, like right here. Yep. And that's usually a good spot for your box height, seat height, whatever you end up deciding. So that'll be your first step, is choosing your height.
Choose wisely.
Okay? Yes. Now the common mistake that people make with the hip thrust is that they overextend their back and they end up feeling it more in their lower back than their glutes. And that usually looks like this. So go ahead and do it wrong. So they hyperextend their back or overextend their back, and they usually look up or look like towards the wall or whatever. And that usually applies a lot of pressure into your lower back. Okay, you come down. Now, what I tend to tell people is you want to keep your eye line locked in the same place. One thing that I know is that actually when you look at a patch J, that is when the ceiling or the wall and the ceiling meet, the corner. So the patch J in this case would be all the way over there. But most rooms, the patch J is like, you know, leveled or eye level. So in Sam's case, she's gonna be looking like a cross like that. So where her eye line is right now, that's pretty much where she'll keep it the entire time. So as she thrusts, she doesn't throw her head back as she does it. So usually, yeah, it looks like that, right? Rather than the other way. That's the wrong way, right? She's throwing her head back. You don't wanna do that. You wanna keep your eye line locked and just thrust. Okay, now, with your glutes, you don't need to overextend your back. We've actually talked about this in the squat video. There's no added benefit from doing that. All you're trying to do is flex your glutes. So you keep your eye line over there and then just thrust, and then you'll feel your glutes like that, just like that. You see how her body is straight and not curved because she's overextending. That's all you need to do just by doing that. Okay, now, this one is a little bit tricky because it's gonna depend on your anatomy, but usually you want around a 45-degree angle on your knee, thigh, and tibia. But I do remember that if it's like further away, you usually tend to feel that more in your hamstring, and if it's really tucked in, you usually tend to feel that more in your quads. So there's sort of a happy medium where it has to be at a 45-degree angle for you to properly feel it in your glutes. Now, sometimes people don't tend to feel it in their glutes, and that's actually okay because you don't necessarily have to. As long as you're extending at the hips, you are working your glutes. Sometimes you might be confusing pump with feeling it. Yes, if you do 20 reps, your glutes are going to be on fire, you're going to feel it, but that doesn't mean that is more effective than if you did 4 reps. For example, Samantha, you've seen glute growth?
Yeah.
How much do you hip thrust?
I can and have hip thrusted 405 before for like 2 reps.
Okay, so pretty strong, right? So you can get your hip thrust up and you don't necessarily have to feel the pump each time you do them. As long as you're extending, you're feeling it. That being said, if you would like to feel it more, you can add a hip thrust band to your hip thrust. So what you do here is you put it on, usually goes right above your knees, like right there. And what this encourages to do, and a lot of you might not feel it also for this, is if you cave your knee in, you're not gonna feel it in your glutes. You wanna be pushing your knees outward like that. So if you use a hip thrust band, you're already doing it, and because you're pushing against resistance, she's probably feeling, work here going into the side of your glutes. Yeah? Okay? So that's what that usually does when you do a hip thrust. So you can add this into your movement to have that more activation in it, but it's not really necessary. But mentally, if you like to do it, you can do that, right? But everything would be the same. So go ahead and hip thrust, push your knees out, and then she would just hip thrust like that. Yep, very good.
This is also really good for like a warm-up to help activate it so you know kind of what muscle you're working.
What you're supposed to feel. Yeah, that's very good. Yes. So you can do body weight ones as a way to activate, prime, pump up your glutes to get them ready for when you finally move into the barbell. All right? Okay, very good. The glute hip thrust is actually a very safe movement. There's not really a lot of risk involved because nothing is ever really compromised as long as you're not overextending your back. It's pretty safe. If you fail it, you just drop it back down and everything is okay. So this is a movement where you can really push some serious weight. However, if you're just starting out, you need to at least be able to buy in to 45 pounds to even be able to use an Olympic bar. So that's 45 pounds. For some people, that can be a lot of weight. So if you're struggling with that, then you could load it with dumbbells in the beginning. This is a hip thrust pad, so you can actually place that, yeah. There you go. So if you're starting out, you can do something like a dumbbell hip thrust. I'll hold this for you. You can come up. And work with a 20-pound dumbbell. And you work with a 20-pound dumbbell, move on to 30, 40, 45, until finally you have the ability to buy into the bar, which is 45 pounds. Okay, very good, very good. Now, once you have the strength to buy into the barbell, you want to start loading up some serious weight, you move over to the barbell hip thrust. So you want to use a hip thrust pad so it doesn't dig into the crease of your hips because that's where it's going to go. And I always tell people make sure that the opening is facing upward so it doesn't start rolling into your hips. The bar will usually loosen up and cut through that, so you don't want that. So yeah, make sure that the opening is facing up. You'd roll the bar to your side. And at first it is a little bit of a balancing act. So there's actually people that have made hip thrust, hip thrust plates that are a little bit taller so you can wedge under it a lot cleaner. But in this case, we don't have that. So usually you have to do something like this and it's pretty finicky, right? But once you're here, you can grab you get into position however you want. You can grab the dumbbells like this, overhand or underhand, it doesn't matter, and you're just following the same principle. Now, something a lot of people do is they don't go all the way down. You can go all the way down. Yep. It just makes it harder. It's a deeper range of motion. You don't necessarily have to do that. You could just do like whatever you would normally do. Yep. And that works it as well. It's totally fine. Those are two variables you could alternate between to make the movement harder if you'd like, but you just do it like this. You want to keep your eye line there. You want to scoop your hips and lock them into your pelvis and then balance the bar with your hands. And then that should be it. Should be good. Yep. Cool. So if you don't have a lot of equipment at home and you'd like to get more creative with your dumbbells and load up more weight, you can use this little hack where you grab your hip thrust band and put the dumbbells on the sides like that, like a belt. Yep. And then you would just put it, yep, exactly. And then now you can do the hip thrust. They're supposed to do that. Yeah, you're good. Yep. And now you have like a belt that's loadable. So instead of 20 pounds, now you're at 40 pounds here, and you can work with that. It's kind of a really cool hack. Okay? Very good. Now, some people actually tend to experience imbalances in their glutes. One glute is sometimes bigger or has more strength than the other, and that usually causes pain. It causes rotations in the squat, or like one leg caving in over the other one. It can cause a lot of problems. So if you ever wanted to either target some imbalances or make your at-home workout even harder, you can swap to a single leg hip thrust. Yep. And you don't also necessarily have to like balance your leg. You can just like dead your leg, and as long as you're not using that leg to apply pressure, you should be fine. This is a great variation. You can load it up with a dumbbell on the one side over there. Yep. And progress that way, make your workout harder, or regress into this until you finally have the strength to move on to the bar. Okay. Some final notes that I would say is you want to make sure that you're breathing and bracing, like most movements that you'll learn in this channel. You'll see that we pretty much breathe and brace with almost everything that we do. That'll help you get more power out of the movement and really push it. And like I said, don't be afraid to push these. These are the ones that you should be able to like really see a lot of progress in. And this is another thing that people don't tend to know. Your glutes are one of the biggest muscles in your body. So if you ever wanted to like burn fat, getting big glutes would help your cause more than doing crunches. So something to look out for.
It's true.